Welcome to the broadcast, everybody. Put up a throne, put on the kettle, and let's get cosy. We're going to keep things light and frothy and bubbly today. Some royal tidbits for you, and then we're going to finish off with a tip jar corner, which has had a little bit of a glow up, so you basketeers can hang around for that. But hold on to your thrones, hold on to your seats, cause it appears that we have the revival and return of the Tig just around the corner. Yes, you know that when she goes quiet, something is up, something is manifesting beneath the surface. Actually, it was me that brought you exclusive whispers before anybody else did, almost a year ago, maybe more, that she was plotting and planning this return to social media. Yes, it was, before anybody else. And it seems to be manifesting, bubbling away under the scenes with a reveal coming, some are saying as early as next week now. I don't know how true that is. Perhaps she's planning the unveiling of the new Tig for Coronation Week. I mean, you wouldn't put it past her, would you, to try and take the shine off of things? But we'll see how that goes. Yes, the Tig, how fabulous. Which is going to be, they're saying that she wants to pitch it as the new Goop. She wants to do a rival to Gwyneth Paltrow. And as I said all those months ago, I think, if I was to be working for her, I would say that it's a fabulous road to go down for her. Very lucrative. No matter what you think of her, she does have reach and huge potential as an influencer. Yes, she does. Yes. Many disparage her, but many admire her, well, let's say some admire her. And even those that disparage her can't resist having a little look to see what she's been up to, bringing traffic to websites that she's mentioned on. She does have pull as an influencer, and she can have some very lucrative brand sponsorships, deals. She hasn't even begun mining those opportunities yet, as she could do. Trust me, the potential is there, as well, as having a book, and also as having an online platform from where she can create all these machinations. So I think, let's see what's going to happen. It's a shame because the Tig, that always puts me in mind, for those of you that read Beatrix Potter, it puts me in mind of little Miss Tiggywinkle. I know it's named after her favourite wine, but yes, it puts me in mind of little Miss Tiggywinkle. Sweet, innocent Miss Tiggywinkle. Anyway, can we just sort of kick off with something a little bit more palate cleansing, a little bit more life affirming than them? And something that's life-affirming is the Duke of Edinburgh with his gorgeous wife, the Duchess of Edinburgh, as they attended a reception at the city chambers to recognise Edinburgh's work in supporting Ukrainian refugees and thank the volunteers. It was a really joyous occasion. The crowds went berserk for Prince Edward, and the Edinburghs met members of the Ukrainian and Eastern European diaspora, including families who have made the city their home since conflict began last year. And magical Edinburgh, they're lucky to have Edward, and Edward is lucky to have Edinburgh because it is such a magnificent city. For those of you that have never been, it's wonderful. I mean, I love it in atmospheric autumn. That's when I'll usually insist on taking a sojourn, and I even do the little ghost tours that they have in the dark tunnels in the dark evenings. It's fabulous. Edinburgh is a magical storybook. The old town part of it. It's a magical storybook. It's an adventure. You wander through the streets, you feel you're in the fabulous novel, and it's fabulous. The streets have a particular smell of a sort of yeasty ale smell in the air that hangs like a fug. It's wonderful. It's in the bricks and mortar there, the ancient brickwork. Fabulous place it is, and I'll get completely carried away with it, but a wonderful day was had by all. But as for this Tiggywinkle affair, this Tig website, papers were filed with the US Trademark and Patent Office alluding to commentary in the field of personal relationships. So some are saying that she's going to try pursing herself off with some sort of agony aunt. In the field of personal relationships. Really? An expert in that? What? Manipulating your relationships? Ruining relationships with extended members of the family? That kind of thing? Perhaps she, she's got a degree in that, hasn't she, my dear? Although it has to be said, a couple of members of Harry's family are rumoured to have gathered at the christening in the form of Lady Jane Fellows and Lady Sarah McCorquodale, who are Diana's sisters. The whispers are that they rocked up there. Not Earl Spencer, interestingly, but the two sisters. Interesting. And as for, by the way, some of you have asked if Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet have been invited to the coronation. I don't know. But my understanding is that no invitation has been extended to them so far because, first of all, they want confirmation from the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. It seems that they want to cosset as much information as possible for as long as possible and are scrambling behind the scenes because they want to save face while also making sure that they secure the association with royalty. To lose that association, as much as they might claim that they want to be free of it, that is the cog beneath their machine. It is the cogs of royalty that keep them spinning, that keep their sails afloat, my dear. It is that association with royalty, that is all they really have. Now, I will tell you that one potential outcome that was offered to me by an insider, with every understanding that nobody really knows other than Harry and Meghan what's going on, but one potential outcome to me that was offered to solve their problems, should we, shouldn't we, who should go, who shouldn't go, was that Harry may attend with Prince Archie, just the two of them, which would give them some sort of continuing association with royalty, would parade Archie on his birthday, so that would also grasp headlines. So they get the royal connection, they get the exposure, the publicity. Lilibet, of course, is very tender of year, so perhaps she's too young to be attending a coronation anyway. But it also means that Meghan doesn't have to look as if she's some sort of hypocrite by attending an institution that she besmirches. Of course, Harry would rather they attend altogether because he wants to show off his proud wife. If I'm going, then my wife has to come along. We get that as well. But the advantage of Harry trundling along is also that some of his costs might be subsumed because he has to travel to the kingdom anyway, or it's prudent of him to travel to the kingdom in the wake of the coronation because he has an upcoming involvement with his hacking trial, hasn't he, which he has to give evidence to or testify. I can't remember the details right now, but it behooves him to be present. So his security arrangements, his security details are very costly, and if some of that can be subsumed with regards to the arrangements for the coronation, well, that might persuade him to make various moves. But as I say, this is just tittle-tattle. Anything could pan out. And the Duchess of Sussex has been in the headlines, showing us how lovely she is, visiting a charity for International Women's Day, of course, supporting pregnant women who are homeless. And she was dressed in black, showcasing a rosy, sun-blushed complexion and white arms. At Harvest Home, she helped with a pop-up baby boutique, offering books, clothes and toys for the needy, and a donation from Archewell was made, and the charity praised the Duchess and the Archewell Foundation for its generous donation and ongoing support. And they do appear to be lovely gestures, don't they? And one could look at me and say, how cold-hearted you are, River. How could you look at any of these operations that they get up to and think that they're anything less than kind and charitable? Well, it is charitable, and they are doing a few good things for a few good causes that cannot be denied, and enriching various lives. But you see, the twist in the tale comes when you fully understand that the money that is being generated and donated to these organisations is generated from betrayal and vulgarity. That is inarguable, I'm afraid. These millions that are going into Archewell Foundation are being harvested from the likes of the betrayal when it comes to the publishing of Spare and the speaking out on television with regards to the royal family. So it's wonderful. It's wonderful if some of these funds are redirected to these causes, but let's remember where the wonga really comes from. Off the back of royalty. And that is going to be the same if and when the TIG is revived. Yes, it will, because it was a moderate success before Meghan met Harry, from what I hear. A moderate success. I mean, it wasn't goop. It wasn't setting the world alight. Now it has the potential to be goop. And that's exactly what it is, my dear. Goop. Not the Paltrow affair, but Meghan's new Tiggy-Winkle affair. All the money that will be harvested from those deals and commercialising everything. All that extra interest that Meghan gets as a Duchess. Because, heaven forbid it's going to be the Tig featuring the Duchess, using that royal association. It is all harvested, and hijacked from royalty. All those pennies are from royalty. Royalty without the nobility. But thankfully there is something noble to be seen, and that is this beautiful, beautiful horse who goes by the name of Noble. And Noble is a gift from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to the King. This 7-year-old mare is settling into life at the Royal Mews in Windsor. And the mare was chosen for her athletic ability and calm demeanour. Noble has participated in 90 public performances in 50 locations in Canada. Isn't it absolutely gorgeous and splendid? Fabulous. The vitriol, the scorn and the hatred keeps pouring in for King Charles, and as I told you in previous broadcasts, I have a lot of sympathy for him, and I certainly don't share those sentiments, although I understand some disappointments. But the vitriol is horrible. He has been meeting with the Archbishop of Canterbury in advance of his coronation. They've been holding sort of guidance sessions and guidance on significant parts of the coronation ceremony, such as the significance of the coronation oath, the commitment that he will make to his subjects, and the Christian symbolism of the regalia. And I do think it's sensible to chat about religion, as I have done quite a lot over the last few months, because it's often forgotten when you're talking about royal matters. People think about the gossip. They don't think about royalty as being a representative of the divine. It's very important to a monarch. And Charles, as we know, was even described in Harry's own book as being deeply religious. He prayed every night. And Charles himself has said, the Church of England, the church in which my own faith is so deeply rooted. Yes, Harry says Charles prayed every night, and I pray not only every night, but throughout the day as well. I pray in earnest and have done for some years, and I'm not going into the specifics of my faith and my spirituality, because how can one do that on a broadcast like this? But I am prayerful too, and I'm saying this because those of you that do pray in earnest understand that it is a practice. It is a practice, and like any practice in life, you get better at it over time if you're doing it with a real desire to learn more about you and about your concept of God or the divine, whatever it is. It's a practice at having channels of communication, at opening those channels of communication, connection to the divine, the power, or you could say the power of imagination. The power of imagination to develop your own innate sense of wisdom. But like any kind of practice, piano practice riding a horse, you'll take a tumble here and there. You'll fall off. That's part of learning. That's part of the process. Making mistakes is how you, and failing is how you become a success. And one thing that I learned about prayer from Sister Wendy Beckett, actually. Remember the late Sister Wendy? Well, I was a great fan of her books. I've got loads of them in that bookcase there behind the screen. I think I've even shown you a couple in the past on various meditations and understanding divinity through art, for example, which I'm sure also applies to King Charles. But one of the lessons that I learnt from her was that prayer is not an act of petitioning, beseeching the Lord to grant you something, going to bed at night saying, well, I haven't got this, I would like this, please do this, that, and the 10th. Many of you who don't pray will find that you do find yourself on your knees and begging. When you find about some illness or somebody's in peril of death or you're going through despair, all of a sudden you become prayerful and you petition, you ask for things. Well, I learned through Sister Wendy that prayer is not a matter of petitioning. It is a matter of listening. And first and foremost, actually, and I haven't only learned this through Sister Wendy, but through my own practice, it is a system of expressing gratitude and praise to God and to the world and for your life. And it can seem rather patronizing when somebody's going through a period of despair or loss or grief to ask them to get down on their knees and thank God for what is existing in the present moment. But having done so myself in some of the bleakest moments of my life and the darkest hours of despair, I trained myself, because I'd been listening and because I'd been communicating, in those moments I got down on the floor literally, and thanked and expressed gratitude for and appreciated for the basics of life, the breath in my body, the fact that I felt no pain, the loved ones around me, for the smallest things, which of course are the biggest things. That's the paradox. And that sets off a sort of alchemical adventure with your own psyche and with your spirituality. And it can have quite profound consequences, and alter your perception of reality. I spoke in a previous Tip Jar Corner about a book that I had discovered, I think at a second-hand bookstore, by Ralph Waldo Treen, In Tune with the Infinite. And it was a version of the law of attraction, which you hear bandied about so much and seems to re-emerge in various carnations again and again throughout the decades. But his message was the same as the law of attraction, but expressed far more eloquently many decades ago. And his version of it rides in tandem with Christianity, and behaving in a godlike manner, emulating the divine, which is beneficent, is magnanimous, is generous, and has a feeling of general well-being. And that is similar to what prayer does, when you express your attitude and when you give off these sort of electromagnetic currents and radiate a certain appreciation and calm contentment with your situation, then the universe delivers more of that to you. Do you understand? The premise being that if you behave inspired by the likes of Jesus or that which is godlike, then you will accumulate more of those qualities for yourself and influence those around you as well. And why am I burbling on about this? Because it does relate so very much to the king, who has prayed every day of his life for a very long time, as we hear from Harry himself, is prayerful and will be influenced by that divine connection. And these sessions that he's having with the Archbishop of Canterbury right now are bolstering that connection. And remember, Britain is the only European monarchy that is still using regalia of this kind for consecration, ceremonies, for the crowning of the sovereign. And these tools that are used imprint a physical message to our brain, to our memory, giving physical symbolism to emotional responses and our own spiritual understanding of our vices and our virtues. And one of those virtues that is mentioned and tied into the regalia, there are 3 swords that are carried into the coronation, pointing upward towards heaven, representing justice, temporal justice, and mercy. And the sword that represents mercy is blunt at the end. And on top of that, there is the great sword of state, which symbolises the sovereign's royal authority, and the St. Edward's staff. This practice of carrying the swords, by the way, dates back to Richard the Lionheart in 1189. So the regalia, when it meets ritual, locks in powerful messages into the psyche, the public consciousness during the coronation, but also into the king's own spiritual armour. They seem like such fusty old silly traditions to some people who besmirch things like the monarchy. But these rituals have power, and you see them going through every culture and civilization to ancient times. What is culture? What is a civilization without these rituals, these traditions? How can a building be successful, no matter how fancy its architecture, without strong roots and a foundation? How? So the power of these swords and the ability to strike and use them to defend when necessary is there, but also there is the reminder of the blunt sword with its blunted tip, just like Harry, with its blunted tip to remind the king that he is also imbued with the power of mercy, and that virtue is part of his royal responsibility. So he has all these various balls to juggle and listen to, but he is held to a high standard. And one word that I don't care to hear when people are disparaging him, and I understand a lot of them, but I don't like hearing about his weakness, because while it can be viewed as weak, I think when you know about the man and you have a well-rounded understanding about his life's work and philosophy and his dedication to prayer, then you might come away understanding how unfair it is to just dismiss various decisions he makes and acquiescing that might appear to be made when people just brush it off as weakness. I've yet to be convinced that he is weak. Whereas with his son and the daughter-in-law, no matter what weapons they've yielded, and no matter how forcefully they've defended themselves and drawn the knives and dug away, whether it's poking the bear or plunging a knife straight into the heart of the monarchy and the memory of the late Queen and her Commonwealth and their father, no matter how proactive they have been, they are weak. They've done nothing to convince me that they are strong, and increasingly to the wider world, their position appears weaker and weaker and weaker, the more that they fight. But before I get too impassioned on the subject, let's draw a line under all that stuff and nonsense and head to somewhere altogether more pleasurable, shall we, my dears? Ladies and gentlemen, come with me to Tip Jar Corner. Welcome to Tip Jar Corner, everybody, where I can present you with a little caddy showcase of my latest treats and finds. And we'll begin, shall we, with this beautiful brooch, absolutely gorgeous brooch here, which I'm showcasing on this brocade bolero that I've worn a couple of times over the months beforehand. But I found this, I think, at a charity shop or a vintage fair. I think it was just a regular charity shop, second hand, but it is so perfect, isn't it? I love it. And the brooch goes beautifully with it. I was really excited to receive it. Ruby crystals on a bed of raspberry ripple petals and leaves of juicy green enamel, gilded in gold. Such juicy colours, aren't they? I love them. And I also loved the colours of this brooch that I found at a Cancer Research charity shop, just going for £3 it was. Lozenges and squares of various sizes with chunky facets. And I'm presenting them for you here on silk tulips. And I've got loads of headbands to show you that have been coming in. I'll show you Secondhand Susie is the one. Secondhand Susie at the vintage fair. Yeah, she's been sourcing them. Well, she had lots in stock anyway, and she's been sourcing them online for me, I think. She gets them all over the place. But this one, this pearl headband, is an array of drops and beads bubbling up in shades of champagne and cream lustre. And there are hints of gold, and the effect is one of a soft halo playing with the light. I think it's really lovely. Found a lovely book in a second-hand bookstore. £2.99 this was. Another fabulous bargain. This is the Boutel's Heraldry, bound in scarlet and revised by C.W. Scott Giles, and is compiled from the heraldic works of Reverend Charles Boutel, first published in 1863. This edition is from the 1950s, and there's a dedication inside. Seems to have been gifted in 1954, as you can see there. And there's fine illustrations and glorious technicolor. Really, really lovely. And it holds a wealth of information that I'm going to find very useful. And this pink brooch showcases Barbara pink rubies of India, threaded with a crystal lattice of diamond embroidery, with a large pink stone at the heart and little sister teardrops to the fall. This snowflake brooch scintillates in a snowstorm of aurora borealis, giving off rainbow-bright luminosity and jagged flakes of silver geometrics. The centrepiece boasts a pearl in solitaire. Just £4, this vintage piece from Cancer Research. This hair adorer in desert peach looks good enough to sink your teeth into, and you can actually purchase these brand new. It's not a vintage item. It was from the Heart Foundation, and you can buy it there just off the peg they're manufactured. It features romantic, heart-like gemmies that thrust from ribbons of white zirconia. This one is a simple strand of diamonds and pearls, as crooned by a prince and fit for a princess. It's set on satin opera gloves of bright fuchsia and Belgravia black. You'll find intricate flowers, a rhombus, miniature pearl baubles, and one larger, milky, pearlescent teardrop to the fall. And hopefully when we get round to the next episode of Tip Jar Corner, I will show you a lovely new chair that I picked up at a vintage fair for just £15. £15. Unfortunately not large enough to replace this rather creaky purple throne. It'll probably be one for the boudoir. But £15 it was. A lovely vintage piece in a sort of silvery grey. Very nice. Just to sit in and, you know, to pull on your nylons or your socks, that kind of affair, my dear. Lovely it is. But I'll show it to you next time. But thank you for joining me this time. I hope you enjoyed the excursion to Tip Jar Corner. And for those of you that have sent me a little tip for a trinket or a coffee, I do thank you most sincerely. Please know that I am very appreciative just of the thought. It's a really nice thought, and it makes it really fun for me to go out magpie hunting for sparkly things and books, and put those tips towards my own funds. Thank you so much, and thank you for watching and keeping me company. Channel the royal spirit at all times, and toodle pip.